In life, we tend to get caught up when we have goals. We tend to get caught up in the comparison trap, thinking about how am I going to get this done? Thinking about your deadlines, thinking about your timeline for things, and thinking about, okay, well, I got to do this. It's the rigmarole, the monkey mind, the chatter of the mind, right? And that's why there's so much power in being present. That's why Eckhart Tolle is such a popular spiritual author and influence, because people really resonate with that. I mean, there's so much to be said with the power of now. Because if you think about it, whatever it is you want to accomplish, we got Mochi over here too. Whatever it is that you want to accomplish, we often are our own worst enemies. We are our own worst critic. And you've heard this before, but you're the one, especially when you're starting out. Let's say that you have a goal and you want to be an author, or you want to start a podcast. Any type of thing like that, even if it's just starting your business, most people are constantly worried about what others are thinking about them. They're constantly worried also about how fast they're going to get something done. But when you go through life, you realize that life is a marathon. I mean, Nipsey Hussle said it best, that it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. And there's also the story, the tortoise and the hare, right? And the tortoise wins the race. I mean, that's a story that we've all can relate to from childhood. And we're like, yeah, that's all well and good. But sometimes we just need these simple reminders to remind us that that is true, and having patience in life and that awareness that your long-term vision, the compound effect over time, that accumulative effect is what's going to make those things happen for you. It's not that idea that we get in our head that says, oh, in this law of assumption community, you see all these things like manifest your SP overnight, or win $100,000 in 3 days. I mean, that's not really sustainable. Even if you were to have something like that happen, that's not something that you can sustain. It's not something that's grounded in you changing who you are. It's something that maybe you were able to bring into your life as a one-time, one-off thing. And it's not something that, like I said, it's not something that you can continue. What are you going to keep doing? Just keep winning the lottery if you want to make money? I mean, that's not, what kind of a life is that? Wouldn't you rather live a life where you enjoy doing what you're doing, where you are putting in work and actually doing and taking the action on something that you feel passionate about, or something that you feel called to do, or something that resonates with you as a person and the internal you, your higher self, whatever you want to call it. And by being present, it allows us to focus on the task in front of us. It allows us to focus on the baby steps, the steps along the way, because all that we can do, like the example of an author, right, is you sit down in front of your computer and you begin to type, and you simply have to do that. That's what any of us have to do, regardless of what it is that we want to accomplish. If we want to become a marathon runner, we simply have to go outside and run. That's the first step in the process, right? But we get so bogged down with imagining all of the hard things that come with something. And it's like, don't think about it, just do it. The more that you start thinking about all this stuff and the chatter of the mind, that's going to deter you from wanting to stop. And it's like the idea being to choose your hard. Like life is going to be difficult, no matter which way you look at it. I mean, some people, you can say life is easy. You could call that a limiting belief. But in the reality of things, like, things don't turn out the way you want. People, there's illnesses and there's tragedies and things that happen in life. Things don't always go as expected. Things don't always go as you want them to. But are you going to pick the hard thing of, look, I'm going to get up, get out into the world, get my gym bag, go to the gym, put my physical exercise, sit down and do the work today? Or are you going to pick the hard that is, oh, okay, I'm just going to sit on the couch, eat potato chips, eat this frozen pizza, this garbage food that it came in a box, it doesn't have any nutritional value, and it's processed, and I know that it's not helping me feel better, it's not contributing to my health or my betterment, but that's the easy path right now, and I'm not going to do the work either. I'm just going to sit, watch Netflix, scroll on TikTok. Either way, it's going to be hard. It's like that future self, your future self, you're creating a difficult future for that self, that version of you that decides to not do the thing, that decides to sit down, eat the frozen food, pizza rolls, scrolling, or the version of you that goes out and does the thing. It's that choice. And it's always a choice. And it's always in the now. It's always in the present moment that you have that choice. Of course, you can set up your environment. And James Clear talks about that in the Atomic Habits, to be more conducive to you making those better choices. And that's something that is definitely a good idea to do. Ultimately, it comes down to your choice every day, but make those choices easier and be committed. There is a book called Influence by Robert Cialdini. And what's really interesting to me through doing sales, studying sales, influence, persuasion, as I have done in the past, is that those tools that you learn about that are influential and persuasive, they don't only work on other people, but they work on yourself. And one of the main principles in that book is the idea of commitment and consistency. And I would argue, I was watching somebody else's video recently. In fact, there was a Alex Hormozy podcast talking about that compound effect that I mentioned. And he brings up The Rock, he brings up Taylor Swift, he brings up, who else? Kylie Jenner, all these people that have built their brands. And even though, Taylor Swift and Kylie Jenner, they're pretty young, he talks about how, Kylie Jenner appeared on national TV when she was just like super young, like 20 years ago, even though she's in her early 20s now. Same thing with Taylor Swift. She was, her first song came out when she was like 15 or 16. So they've been in the game for over a decade, and only recently, in Taylor's case, experienced such paramount success. And, same thing with The Rock, with the Joe Rogan. It's like they've been at this, doing this for decades. And that goes back to this idea of commitment and consistency. And so not only are you, when you're committed and consistent, not only are you going to make more of an impact or be more influential to other people, but that works for yourself too. When you wake up every single day and show up as that version of yourself, doing the thing that you told yourself you're going to do, day in and day out, you're building that integrity with yourself. And now you're looking at yourself and saying, look, I'm a man or a woman of integrity. I do what I say I'm going to do. And building up that self-image, that self-concept within yourself that says, hey, look, I do what I say I'm going to do. My thoughts and my deeds, my actions are in perfect alignment. I'm somebody that can be relied on, that can be counted on. Now I can trust myself that I'm going to do what I said I'm going to do, is one of the biggest things you can do for yourself. That's why I don't really understand. I see people doing stuff like quiet quitting at their jobs or whatever, and it doesn't really make sense to me, because any job I've ever had, whether I was serving as a waiter or I was, in any sort of sales capacity job or whatever it was that I ever did, any job that I've worked, I've always tried to do it. I've worked as a camp counselor. I always try to give it my best because I want, even if I just look at it from a selfish perspective, I want to have the self-image of somebody that shows up and kills it. Like, regardless of what I'm doing, I'm the type of person that does a fantastic job. And when my coworkers or my boss or whoever sees me doing whatever, they're like, oh wow, like he did it. Alex does a good job. I mean, even if I made a mistake, even if I messed up, they're like, well, he gives it his all. Like, he really does show up every day, and he does his utmost. And I, you know, when I was doing internships too, I had an internship in at a nightclub in LA, and I had an internship for a short time also for a like boutique entertainment agency. But I would do my best, and some of those jobs, like that boutique entertainment thing, it wasn't a good fit for me, so I left and I went to the nightclub thing. And you know, like throughout time though, I always really did like put my best foot forward. And it's that commitment and consistency combined with being present to the moment, being in the now, being grounded in this present moment, that is so powerful, and that it will stack up and that give you that compound effect over time. And you know, you're not going to see the immediate results. And it's like Alex Hormozi talks about that so much. He's so popular right now, and for good reason, because he practices what he preaches. You can tell that he's being himself, he's being authentic, and the insights and the value that he's giving to people is worthwhile. I mean, I found his videos quite a while ago when he was just doing them more raw, and obviously he's blown up since then. But his analysis of, you know, all of those celebrities that we just mentioned and their personal brands and the compound effect over time and how they've been able to achieve success, I mean, it really rings true. And again, it's that commitment and consistency. What is the common thread between all of them? They're all committed and they're consistent. And you could argue that within that comes the patience too, because again, even though it might look like Kylie Jenner is some sort of overnight success, her and her family have been in the public eye for forever. Same thing with Taylor, same thing with Joe Rogan, same thing with The Rock. And whatever you want to do, you know, we're talking about celebrities right now, but if you wanted to be an athlete, or if you want to be a writer, like I said, or be successful in your business, it's going to be that compound effect over time, that commitment and that consistency, and showing up for yourself and believing in yourself. And all of that stuff works hand in hand. But going back to the present moment thing, it's like, that's when we fail, is when we're not in the present, when we're living in some potential catastrophizing some potential future that says, oh, like this, and I'm gonna have to do this, not all this work, and it's not even worth it, and then you don't even want to try. Or you say something, or you're looking at the past, you're like, oh, well, you know, this didn't work for me in the past, and you know, my parents told me this, or I heard about this, and I think this is a scam or whatever. Okay, so be it then. So it's like you've made that your reality then by convincing yourself of it. Whereas if you just went to the gym, or sat down and started writing, or began filming, or went out and, you know, began to look for real estate wholesale deals, or whatever it is that your goal is currently, began building the process of learning how to build websites. And all of this is available for you now on YouTube. There's really, like, at this point in time, anything that you want to learn about or anything that you want to get good at, there's really no barrier. The barrier is now so low because the information is right here at your fingertips. Being able to guide yourself back into the present moment, take that deep breath. And this is also why I don't subscribe to, I'm not a big fan of my attention being distracted and pulled away. And I'm a believer in deep work, like Cal Newport talks about deep work. And I don't like having all the time having notifications going off too, because it's a distraction. It distracts the mind away from what it is that you're doing. And then again, like a lot of these notifications, whether it's from text threads that you're in, or group chats, or social media, is going to be more than likely, a lot of it is going to be reinforcing more negative beliefs, or more doubt, or more anxiety. And, you know, operating in haste again, this rushing, all this rushing around that we've gotten used to, and we're so used to instant gratification. We get a package from Amazon, it gets delivered the next day or sometimes even the same day, has got us way too wound up, way too in that beta state. We're not able to relax. We're not able to think of the long term. We're so instant gratification, so much dopamine. Let me get another hit of dopamine, that it pulls us away from being able to be in the present. That beta state, that beta brainwave state is constantly fight or flight. It's constantly saying, okay, I have to rush one thing to the next, and comparing yourself to people, and all of that very superficial levels of thought, that gossiping. What is this person doing? What are they doing? What time is this happening? Why, like, how can I get this done by this time? I mean, if you get rid of the deadline, it's fine to have a deadline, but by focusing so much on that and rushing, the end product, the end result of what it is that you're trying to work towards and create is going to be diminished because you're too concerned with the deadline, or you're too concerned with the time frame that you think that something should be done in, because again, you're comparing it to somebody else's highlight reel or somebody else that you saw on Instagram, somebody else that says, how I built a 6-figure business in 3 months. And now you're thinking that because you've been working on your business for a year and you have barely gotten any results, that you're a complete failure, and then you give up on the whole thing. In all reality, those situations where somebody builds a business in that time frame is so few and far between. I mean, that if that's happening for somebody, they got lucky. They hit a certain market at a certain time. Maybe they already had connections. I mean, there's so much about that is just not. It's very rare and uncommon. And by comparing yourself and by putting these rushed deadlines on yourself, you're doing yourself a great disservice, because the commitment and consistency, no matter what it is that you do, you will get results over time. If you are focused, if you are putting in the work, if you are truly being present and showing up for yourself in that way where you're dedicated and you're doing your utmost best, either you will get the result or you won't. But there's no, and if you don't get the result and you've given it enough time, then maybe it wasn't the right thing. Maybe it wasn't the right fit for you. But the commitment and the consistency, by doing that and by having patience, I would say that 9 times out of 10, you are going to see results. You're going to move the needle. Because again, what I would say about that as well is that then there's something that you need to tweak or something that you need to change. So that's something that you need to learn to be adaptable as well. Because if something's not working or one approach to the process isn't working, then becoming adaptable and changing is another way that you can ensure that your success. Model the others' success, others that have done what it is that you're looking to do. And yeah, I mean, that's just something that's been on my mind lately. Like the idea of commitment and consistency, and then the patience that goes along with that. I mean, if you really, really do and operate from that place, by being committed, by being consistent, like I said, not only will other people notice it, but you will begin to, it's almost like, what's it, that quote in The Alchemist, where it says, when you desire to have something, the entire universe conspires for you to get it. And by showing up, being committed and being consistent, you're almost showing the universe that says, hey, look, I'm ready for this thing. Because the commitment and consistency also, another thing about this that's interesting, it also is directly communicating with that universal energy that says, hey, look, I believe this is possible for me. I have faith that this is possible. Because otherwise I wouldn't be so committed and consistent, right? Because that's the language that the universe speaks in, one of them. We talk about, there's different planes of existence. I mean, I was talking to Naya about this on the channel recently, in my interview with her. You can check it out up here. I'll leave a link up here. And we're talking about how there's different levels of existence, right? And there's the physical plane, and then there's a mental plane or spiritual planes. And by you being committed and consistent, now the different planes are in alignment, because now you're saying, hey, look, I'm gonna do this, But I'm also in the physical plane, it's also in alignment, saying I'm showing up every single day and doing the thing that I said mentally I was going to do, right? And we are simultaneously in existing in multiple planes at once. We're existing in the physical plane, we're existing in the mental plane. So on so many different levels, this has power. And, if you take a look around again, you don't have to take my word for it. Watch Alex Hormozi's video. You could take his word for it, or you could just simply look at, like, the proof is in the pudding. All the people that you see, and it could be an athlete, it could be Novak Djokovic, it could be Tom Brady, it could be, who's that new, what's his name? Roy Purdy, or not Roy Purdy, Purdy, the guy, like, the quarterback for, is it Kansas City? The guy that just won the NFL, he's from Arizona. I forget his name right now, right? But all of these people, like, he was an underdog. I read about his story. And it's funny because he's from the same town, the same part of Arizona that my girlfriend's from. Nobody really, he was like an underdog. He was like the last picked for the NFL draft. And now he's out here, like, just winning the Super Bowl. And, what is that? Again, it's commitment and consistency. Everywhere that you look, everywhere that you go, success leaves the clues, right? Success leaves clues. And it is that commitment and consistency every single time. You could argue that some people are committed and consistent and then don't ever get results, but I would like to really see how committed and consistent they were. And again, if they were committed and consistent, maybe they had their blinders on and maybe they weren't being adaptable. If you think about social media, for example, social media, like Facebook, obviously is something, right? Or there's MySpace, and MySpace, those aren't as popular anymore, right? And it's like, okay, you want to be successful on social media, but it's 2020 and you're still posting on MySpace. I mean, that's not going to work, right? You have to adapt to the times. You have to mold and adapt yourself to what it is that people want, to what it is that the world needs. And those are the principles in that book, Ikigai. What can you do that you love, that you're passionate about, that you're good at, and that will serve the world? And you focus on all of these different things, bring that commitment and consistency. And, it's something that I'm working on too, operating from that present to the moment, ability to see the now, because I still get caught up in the chatter too. I mean, we're all human and it can happen. Just saying this a lot is a reminder to myself as well, that those steps, those daily steps towards your goal, that's what's going to get you there. And knowing that and being focused on the moment, being focused on the present task rather than this big picture, like, and you can refer to the big picture, you can visualize the big picture if you want, your end goal. But being so caught up with the worrying and everything else that accompanies that, with the stress of the deadline and I need this by this time, it's really not serving you. What is serving you is sitting down, or depending on what you're doing, sitting down, doing the work. If you're an athlete, it's going to go into your training session. If you were trying to run a contracting business, it's showing up to the job site and developing the skills, right? I mean, you have to tailor it to what you're doing, but it's really just showing up and doing the work. And that's half the battle. I've learned that over time, is that if you just by showing up, if I just start writing, if I'm trying to write a book, I've already won more than half the battle just by that. And oftentimes what you realize is you start doing the thing and then, okay, like, this isn't as so bad as I thought. I told myself I was committed to writing for 10 minutes, but now that I'm in the flow of this, now I can actually sit down and actually, like, I'm going to write for like a couple hours, or a couple hours go by and you don't even realize it, because now you're in the zone, now you're in the flow. Anyways, guys, I hope that this video resonates in some way. I hope that you're able to take the idea of commitment and consistency and implement it in your life. And with that being said, much love as always. I really appreciate everybody on the channel, all the support that I've been getting lately. Drop me a like, hit me with a subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I will see you guys in the next video.